This time on Dreddit.
Am I the a-hole for not making my son give his friend his gamer account back? Sorry if I'm not using the right terms here, I clearly don't know much about gaming. Earlier today, I received a call from Sally, who has a son my son's age, 13. They're school friends but I don't think they've ever hung out outside of class. I vaguely know Sally from school events and we've always been friendly, but we don't have the kind of relationship where she just calls out of the blue, so I was surprised to hear from her. She told me that her son had sold his League of Legends gaming account to my son and that he was now very upset about it, but my son wouldn't give it back. She was perfectly nice about it but asked if I could talk to him. I said that I would because quite honestly, I didn't really have a clue what she was talking about. I told my son about the call and asked him for his side of the story. He told me that this kid Sam were talking and Sam had told him that he was done playing League of Legends. My son offered to buy his account for $20 if he wasn't going to use it anymore and Sam agreed. But then Sam apparently wanted the account back a few days later and my son refused to give it back. Sam offered to pay $40 for it and my son still didn't give it back. I asked my son if he took advantage of Sam and he said that he didn't and that he didn't think it was fair that Sam can just take it back after making a deal. I happen to agree with him. A deal is a deal. I called Sally back and said that I was sorry but that my son didn't want to give it back and that it sounds like they made a fair deal that Sam was just now regretting. Sally said that it wasn't a fair deal because Sam had put much more than $20 into the account before selling it. I admitted that didn't know this but said that it didn't matter because he still agreed to sell it. Sally was upset and said that my son took advantage of hers and that I was allowing it. I told her that I didn't see it that way but that I was sorry her son was upset. Sally said she'd give my son $50 for the account and I said that I didn't think it was about money, but I again apologized that her son was upset. Sally snapped at me and said that I needed to stop apologizing if I wasn't going to actually do anything about it and hung up. I obviously feel terrible. I know how hard it is to have an upset kid who you can't help, but I don't think my son should have to compensate for Sam's seller's remorse. If Sam were my kid, I would use this as an opportunity to tell him to be more careful before making a deal you might regret. But I do have a nagging feeling that I may have messed up here. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for not letting my boyfriend move into my new apartment after he made us lose our shared one? Throw away because I don't want this drama tied to my real account. Me, 23F, and my boyfriend, 24M, got evicted a few months ago. We get along well and both of us are otherwise very responsible when it comes to work and household chores. The main issue here is, he games a lot, and is very loud when doing so. I tried to talk to him numerous times about how it's not appropriate to yell at the game in the middle of the night, but he never really listened to me. After too many noise complaints, we finally got evicted. During this time we have lived with a relative, and he has continued to be very loud in front of the computer. Now, I finally found an apartment I can afford, but I told him that I don't want to live with him as long as he keeps this behavior up, and that he will need to find an apartment on his own. I would love to live with him in the future if we ever get a home of our own, as we both dream of living remotely in the future. He thinks it's really shitty of me to decide this over one mistake, but I really don't want to go through this whole apartment searching process if he gets us evicted again, and he really doesn't show any inclination towards changing his behavior in this regard. Most of my friends think I am being unreasonable as well, since it was a one-time thing, but I think getting evicted over noise is a pretty major thing, especially since there was many complaints from the landlord before he kicked us out.
Am I the a-hole for calling my cousin out for purchasing Belle Delphine's Gamer Girl bath water in front of the family? I am originally from Russia but my extended family lives in the US. I am here for school mainly. I was at a get-together for the 4th and my cousins started joking about Belle Delphine bath water that she sold to people for I believe $30 American, over the internet. I did not know at the time, but my eldest cousin actually bought a cup of it but has not figured out what to do with it. I thought this was very disturbing as I come from a more financially conservative immediate family. I became very serious and concerned with my cousin as he does not work a good job and should not be spending his money on things such as this. I asked him his reasons for doing this and it turns out he just did it impulsively without any good reason, and as it turns out he does this kind of thing very consistently. I feared these bad habits could develop into real problems later in his life, so I confronted his parents and told them what he did. Things got serious as his parents were very disturbed by this purchase in particular, due to the fact that he spent a third of $100 on what is possibly contaminated water. Soon, everybody knew and they did a miniature intervention which involved family members giving him advice, etc. It was very humiliating for him. After I left, he sent me a voice message wherein he was crying and told me how I humiliated him and caused his depression to resurface. I tried to make amends, but he does not respond to me. I want to think I helped him, as the advice he received from our family was very good in my opinion. However, I do not want him to feel bad since it was really just a silly purchase. Thanks. Am I the a-hole for trying to test a girl's nerd? 20 male. Don't think I did anything wrong, but my friends are all saying I'm an asshole. So I have a group of friends and we're quite frankly, nerds. We met this girl I'll call L 2 years ago. The other guys all like her, think she's great and she knows all about things we're into, but I had a feeling she's not really one of us. I put up with it for 2 years, but I can't shake the feeling. So the last time we were together before quarantine, I decided to test her nerd. She seemed surprised but could answer all my questions, until I got to Star Trek. I was feeling pretty confident, until she asked me to clarify. Apparently I misspoke, and accidentally asked a trick question. My friends all jumped on me accusing me of being an asshole and she didn't need to pass some test to hang out with them and how I needed to get over it. Another friend pointed out that I wasn't the guardian of the group. I got mad, no one was on my side and left. Quarantine happened shortly after, and I recently found out they've all been chatting with her. I told her I didn't appreciate her trying to steal my friends. She never replied, but one of my friends bitched at me for a while. I got mad, no one was listening to me and said it's her or me. He said her. None of my other friends have messaged me since. My brother says I was trying to be king of the nerds and gatekeeping, and should apologize. I don't think I have anything to apologize for and they should apologize for not hearing me out. So tell me, am I the asshole for just trying to make sure she was actually a nerd like us? ETA, I knew I shouldn't have posted on here, you guys don't get it. I am not going to apologize for being suspicious of her intentions and being angry my so-called friends bailed on me for some chick they've only known 2 years. I was not gatekeeping, I was just trying to make sure she wasn't trying to be trendy. Screw this, I won't be back.
Am I the a-hole for not liking my house being turned into an animal zoo, and being forced to maintain it and care for it? So, I have a brother and we live with our parents in our family house. We are in uni. During the lockdown my brother has taken a liking into animals, mainly birds and fish, and has bought a lot of them even though we told him we have too many already. He said that we are overreacting. Reddit, in my kitchen alone we have 4 cages and 2 aquariums, 2+2+2 canaries with nests for babies in 2 cages, 1 aquarium with a bed of fish, 40-liter, a small one for aqua snails and 2 budgie parrots, and the living room has a 100-liter aquarium. Now the problem, due to the layout of the house, we can't sit in the living room because it annoys my brother. His door is next to it, and he wants his privacy, so I only had my room and the kitchen to spend my time, especially during the quarantine. The birds are canaries that sing a lot, 3 male, 3 female, and it has become unbearable to sit in the kitchen and do anything. Besides the fact that he tried to demand that our grandma doesn't spend her time in the kitchen when she is helping around the house but instead in my room instead of the empty living room, because her presence disturbs the mating canaries and he wants his privacy. I shut him down fast about that. Moreover, now that the babies have hatched, he demands that we don't turn on the lights in the kitchen when the sun sets because it disturbs the babies and their parents, while also not making any noise during the day because the babies are sleeping. He refuses to have the cages in the living room because he says that due to his sleep schedule they won't have a lot of light and will annoy him while he sleeps. He also wants me and my mother to take care of them and the fish with him because they are too many and difficult for him. At this point he knew they would be, and he still wants to get more and have babies. He knows my mother will yield and help more. He demands that every Sunday we help him with our whole evening, 2 hours, to clean his tanks and change the water, and then help him every day, almost, with changing the food, water and paper of the birds, turning on and off the aquarium lights and covering and uncovering the birds. Basically wants to have the pets and other people do the dirty work. I have had a lot of arguments with him, and I have told him multiple times that I am not willing to sacrifice my little free time to clean his stuff, and I have hobbies of my own, and he is calling me the a-hole because I am not helping him with his hobby. I am belittling his hobby, and I am not engaging with his hobby as much as he wants me to. Is it that bad that I don't want to be the cleaning crew of another person's hobby and want to keep my free time to do things that I enjoy? Reddit, am I the a-hole here?
Am I the a-hole for euthanizing my daughter's emotional support animal for her own sake? My daughter recently turned 20. She's been dealing with major depressive disorder, social anxiety, anorexia, body dysmorphic disorder, and 2 autoimmune diseases since she was around 12. I'm very involved in her treatment and obviously wanted her to get better, so when her therapist recommended getting her a dog to register as an emotional support dog, we got her one for her 16th birthday, named Juniper. I generally dislike animals, but it was for my daughter's sake, so I caved. Junie and my daughter grew close, and I have seen a notable difference in her since we got the dog, especially in her sense of independence and self-esteem. 4 years later, my daughter is now a part-time tutor, volunteers with the elderly, and attends school full-time with excellent grades. I'm so proud of how far she's come, and though I realize she has a ways to go, Junie has helped her, and I credit the dog for that immensely. Here's the problem. While my daughter was at school, Junie got out of the house and got hit by a car, since we live right in front of a busy street. My wife and I rushed her into the vet and were told that Junie would need surgery, which would cost somewhere in the ballpark of $2,000. I make a good salary, but I just cannot justify spending that much on a dog, especially when it may not even work and Junie would probably be crippled. Plus, she was pushing 5 years old, and her breed usually only lives for 9 to 10 years. Due to all these reasons, I decided the humane and logical decision would be to euthanize Junie. At this point I called my daughter to let her know the situation and the solution I'd chosen, and she freaked out on me. She tried telling me how she had $700 in savings and would quickly find a job to pay me back the rest, to which I declined because A, it's not just about the money, and B, I don't want to risk ruining her mental health by her getting a job, especially since she'd likely have to quit one of her volunteer jobs which have helped her so much. I explained this to her, but she wasn't hearing reason, so I put my foot down and said my decision was final because the dog was technically mine since I paid for it. Then I hung up. We put Junie down, surrounding her with love and gratitude. When we got home, my daughter had just pulled in and was hysterical. I told her she was too old to be acting like this, and one part of becoming a competent, independent adult was accepting what life throws at you. Now she isn't speaking to me. I'm beginning to think I should have at least told her where we were so she could say goodbye. On the other hand, Junie already served her purpose in helping my daughter, and she only had the dog for 4 years, so I don't understand the huge overreaction. Am I the a-hole? Edit, Jesus Christ. Message received, I guess I'm TA. I still believe I made the best choice, but I suppose I could have let her be more involved. Some people are asking the same questions, so I'll answer them here. I'm not a sociopath. I am just excellent at separating emotion in preference of logic, especially in times of crisis. This does not mean I don't feel anything. I love my daughter more than anything in the world. My wife was 100% on my side for the actual decision of putting Junie down and agreed our daughter should not witness it. She did, however, disagree with the words and tone I used towards my daughter when we got home, which is where I began wondering if I was the I'm not and have never been jealous of Junie. That's ridiculous. She was an emotional crutch for my daughter and will always be special to me in that way. My daughter did not love me any less after getting the dog. If anything, she loved me more. Lastly, thought I would update you all that I did, in fact, talk to my daughter today. It took her some time to let me in, but once she did, I was able to explain my side, give her my reasoning for what I did, and convince her to forgive me. She agreed, and we are all moving past this ASAP. I'm actually about to run out and get her favorite fast food for dinner, and we're having a family movie night. She is still acting distant and mopey, but she has her regular therapist appointment tomorrow, so I'm confident she can vent there and her therapist can help her get through this without any permanent damage. By the way, I also offered to get her another dog, which wasn't easy for me, and she declined, so I don't think her bond with the dog and like for animals in general was as unbreakable and solid as all you commenters are claiming. Junie just wasn't meant to be around that long, and I'm glad my daughter was able to have 4 years with a dog she liked. Now we're moving on. The end. Edit 2. To everyone leaving horrendous messages to me in my direct messages, take a look at yourself and the words you're using against me. And consider how hypocritical it is that you're calling me the asshole when you're telling me you hope my daughter murders me. Am I the a-hole for yelling at a mentally ill co-worker for putting animals in danger? I, 37 male, work at a very small ocean conservation non-profit where we patrol along the coast for animals that have been injured by human debris. If we find an animal, usually a seal, as there is a heavy seal population on the beach where we patrol, we capture it, remove any debris on its body, put away the debris to be thrown out later, and bring the animal back with us if it has been severely injured, although most often they can just go straight back in the water. There is a relatively new person on our team, Amy, 26 female. Although she is mostly good at her job, on certain days she will be unfocused and space out randomly. She explained to us early on that this is a result of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which we're sure she is still working on curing. We encourage her to not actively patrol on those days, but she is very dedicated, and unless it is a very bad day she will patrol. On Saturday, we were on the beach, 4 of us, including Amy, and rescued a young seal with fishing line around its neck. Amy subdued it while another person cut the line, and they both worked on unwrapping it from the poor seal. Amy didn't mention anything about today being bad, saying a few weeks ago that she was getting tired of us asking about it. Well, even before this rescue I could tell she was on autopilot, and when the line was fully unwrapped she just held it with a blank look in her eye. My other associate said to let it go, meaning the seal, but Amy, not really focused, let the line go instead of, as I bolded, putting it away to be thrown out later. If we don't do this, there is a chance that another animal could eat the debris or it could get wrapped around its body. Not doing this would nullify everything we're doing, and she let the line go. We immediately shouted out and she snapped out of it immediately, running to get the line. Thankfully she could catch it since it wasn't a very windy day. She apologized and put away the line. We were still all furious. We yelled at her for a minute or two about how unsafe that was and how she should have stayed back if she knew she wasn't having a good day. She didn't say anything, just sort of froze, but I saw her wiping her eyes before getting back in our truck. Although she still participates, I noticed she will barely communicate with me or look me in the eye, and I'm assuming it's the same with the others. Another co-worker and her friend, who wasn't at the incident, sent me a message this morning saying that Amy told her what happened and told me that it was very wrong to yell at her when I know what she's dealing with. I am aware of this, but she was extremely unprofessional and could have harmed another animal. That is the antithesis of our entire operation. However, I know I could be the asshole because she has mental illness. Am I the a-hole? Edit, I do think we could have been a bit less harsh, but we wanted to make sure she knew what we were talking about when we said not to participate. This is also for her safety. If she isn't fully focused when handling a larger seal it could attack. Even babies have very sharp teeth.